Letting strangers on the internet edit an encyclopedia. Jimmy Wales himself calls it completely insane. And yet, against every prediction, every expectation, Wikipedia became one of the only things we still trust today. Why? How an impossible idea survived social media's chaos, billionaire attacks, and especially the AI revolution to become the internet's conscience. This is a story of the encyclopedia that refused to break. Welcome to That's Life, I Swear. This podcast is about life's happenings in this world that conjure up such words as intriguing, frightening, life-changing, inspiring, and more. I'm Rick Barron, your host. That said, here's the rest of this story. When Jimmy Wales launched Wikipedia in 2001, he was making what even he recognized as an audacious bet on human nature. Now, the premise seemed laughable to most observers. Create an encyclopedia that anyone in the world could edit at any time, on any topic. I mean, there were no gatekeepers, no credentials required, no editorial board with advanced degrees scrutinizing every comma. No, just an open invitation to humanity to collaboratively document everything worth knowing. Wikipedia is very trusting in a way that always seemed a bit crazy. Wales acknowledged in the conversation his characteristic optimism tempered by genuine wonder at what his creation had become. Now, 59 years old, Wales describes himself as a pathological optimist, yet even he seemed somewhat astonished that this experiment in radical openness had not only survived, but thrived beyond anyone's wildest predictions. Now, you got to consider the landscape of the internet in 2026. Social media platforms have devolved into echo chambers of outrage and misinformation. Comment sections are wastelands of hostility. Online interactions often bring out the worst in human behavior. The cruelty, the tribalism, the casual dishonesty. Against this backdrop, Wikipedia's model of allowing anyone to edit any entry seemed, as Wales himself put it, completely insane. And yet it works. Somehow, in probability, it works. Now, Wikipedia has transformed from being kind of a joke in its early years to becoming one of the few institutions that people across the political spectrum still trust. While confidence in politicians, mainstream media, and even neighbors has plummeted over the past 2 decades, Wikipedia has established itself as a beacon of reliability in an increasingly unreliable digital world. So how and why did this happen? And why it matters more now than ever? Jimmy Wales recently published his first book, The 7 Rules of Trust, attempting to distill the lessons that Wikipedia, along with a few other successful trust-based platforms, can teach us about rebuilding social cohesion in an age of mistrust. But the real story is in how Wikipedia's structure creates conditions where truth can emerge from chaos. The genius of Wikipedia lies not in preventing bad actors from participating, but in making all participation transparent. Every edit is recorded. Every change is tracked. Every deletion leaves a trace. When someone vandalizes an article, and they do, constantly, the damage is visible, reversible, and creates a permanent record of the attempt. This radical transparency is Wikipedia's immune system. It's like the digital cookie crumbs, if you will. The fact that Wikipedia is still massive, more popular than any newspaper, is partly because we try really hard, not perfect for sure, to stick to the facts and to give transparency, Wales explains. You can see where the information came from. You can click on it and check. This commitment to confirm sets Wikipedia apart from virtually every other source of information online. Want to know whether a claim is accurate? Look at the citation. Question the neutrality of a passage. Check the talk page, where editors debate even contentious phrase. Suspect bias in an article? Examine the edit history to see how it evolved and who contributed what. Wikipedia doesn't ask for blind trust. It earns trust by showing its work, by documenting its uncertainties, by flagging its gaps. When an article lacks sufficient citations, Wikipedia announces this weakness with a banner at the top. When a topic is controversial, the site acknowledges the controversy rather than pretending to have settled it. Now, this honesty about limitations is itself a form of integrity that has become a very rare commodity in our media ecosystem. Behind Wikipedia's transparency is an army of volunteers, the Wikipedians. They've built a culture around accuracy, neutrality, and collaborative improvement. They aren't paid professionals or credentialed experts enforcing their authority. They're just ordinary people who care enough about getting things right to spend their free time debating the proper phrasing of a paragraph, tracking down sources, and reverting vandalism. Now, Wales is keenly aware that this system isn't perfect. His book revisits infamous failures, like when an online troll used Wikipedia to implicate journalist John Seekenthaler in the Kennedy assassinations falsely. Wales acknowledges that governments, activists, and others have repeatedly attempted to manipulate Wikipedia's content to advance their own agendas. But here's the crucial point. The site's continued growth and trustworthiness suggests that bad actors haven't won out over the volunteer army of dedicated editors. The system's openness, ironically, is what makes it resilient. When someone introduces bias or misinformation, others can see it, challenge it, and correct it. The editing process is contentious and messy. Democracy always is, but it trends toward accuracy over time. Wales himself recently demonstrated this commitment to neutrality by wading into a heated editing conflict over Wikipedia's titled Gaza Genocide. In November of 2025, Jimmy wrote on the article's discussion page that it fails to meet our high standards because it stated in Wikipedia's own voice that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza rather than carefully documenting the debate around that characterization. It's a shocking example of neutrality issues, Wales calls it. His intervention prompted immediate pushback from other editors. Why, one person demanded, should the opinions of UN officials and human rights scholars be weighed equally with partisan commentators and governments? Because that's what neutrality demands, Wales responded with characteristic directness. Our job as Wikipedians is not to take sides in that debate, but to carefully and neutrally document it. This exchange perfectly captures Wikipedia's approach. Even the site's co-founder has no special authority. The Wikimedia Foundation noted in a statement that Wales is just one of hundreds of thousands of editors, all striving to present information including on contentious topics, in line with Wikipedia's policies. His opinion carries weight from his experience and credibility, but it doesn't override the collaborative editing process. Wales' commitment to neutrality has made him and Wikipedia targets for critics across the political spectrum. Lately, attacks have intensified from prominent figures on the right. Billionaire Elon Musk, once a fan of Wikipedia, has turned hostile, calling the platform Wokepedia. White House AI and crypto czar David Sachs, conservative commentator Tucker Carlson, and even Wales' co-founder Larry Sanger have all claimed Wikipedia suffers from left-wing bias. In 2023, Musk offered to donate $1 billion to Wikipedia if the organization would rename itself Dikipedia, an offer that revealed more about Musk's approach to discourse than about Wikipedia's content. The day before Wales published his book, Musk launched Courpedia. This AI-generated encyclopedia, he claimed, would exceed Wikipedia by several orders of magnitude in breadth, depth, and accuracy. Wales' approach to these accusations have been consistent and straightforward. Not true, he told Bloomberg, when asked about Musk's bias claims. Rather than becoming defensive, Wales issued an invitation. And he said, and I quote, "If you feel like Wikipedia has got some bias, encourage people to come and participate, people who agree with you. Don't paint us as crazy left-wing activists or something. We aren't." End quote. This response reveals something essential about Wikipedia's philosophy. You see, the site doesn't claim to be bias-free because it's run by perfectly objective people. No such people exist. It works toward neutrality through a process that includes people with different perspectives, all held to the same standards of verifiability and neutral presentation. The answer to perceived bias isn't to abandon the platform or denounce it. It's to participate, to bring evidence, to engage in the collaborative process of improvement. Now, Wikipedia, by contrast, offers a fundamentally different model. Currently hosting more than over 900,000 articles, many strikingly similar to their Wikipedia counterparts, the AI-generated encyclopedia can't be directly edited by users. People can inspect sources and submit correction suggestions, but these aren't debated on public talk pages or decided by human moderators. Instead, they're processed by Croak, the same AI chatbot that made anti-Semitic statements about an update in July, according to XAI, to apologize and deactivate the update. Early responses to Wikipedia have split along predictable lines. Musk supporters praise it for having no human bias and no errors, and for its nuance and detail. Critics note that Wikipedia's article on George Floyd foregrounds his criminal record in the opening lines mentioning his murder by a police officer only later. Articles about Musk and his companies are longer than their Wikipedia equivalents, yet somehow omit unflattering details. Wales remains unworried about this supposed competition. He says, and I quote, "I don't think we're about to see fragmentation in online encyclopedias. Wikipedia will continue to strive to be high quality and neutral. If Elon makes an encyclopedia skewed to his worldview, I'm sure it will have some traffic, but it won't be anything like Wikipedia." End quote. His confidence isn't arrogance. It's based on understanding what actually creates trust. An encyclopedia generated by an AI chatbot, no matter how sophisticated, can't replicate the transparency, accountability, and collaborative refinement that makes Wikipedia trustworthy. When Croak makes an error, and it will, because all AI systems hallucinate, there's no edit history showing how the error crept in, no talk pages where users debated the point, no community of editors who can be held accountable. There's just an opaque algorithm producing content that users must either accept or reject. Wikipedia represents just one facet of the broader challenge that AI poses to Wikipedia. Some 65% of Wikipedia's most server-straining traffic now comes from bots, many of which scrape the site to feed data into AI training systems. Search engine users who once clicked through Wikipedia now often find their answers in AI-generated summaries that sometimes are wrong, sometimes incomplete, and always lacking Wikipedia's transparent sourcing. Wales sees this development as making Wikipedia more vital, not less. Islands of human-generated content like Wikipedia become more important than ever, he argues. His principles of trust, he believes, are just as relevant to AI developers as to human editors, because every time you get an AI answer and find out that the AI hallucinated and just made that up, it reduces your trust. This is the fundamental difference between Wikipedia's model and AI-generated content. Wikipedia makes mistakes, lots of them, but those mistakes are visible, traceable, and correctable. When an AI hallucinates a fact, it presents fiction with the same confidence as truth, and users have no way to distinguish between them without external verification. Wikipedia's transparency is its superpower in an age where opacity is becoming the default. Wales' concern with trust extends far beyond Wikipedia. He sees the erosion of social trust as having profound, even deadly consequences. He was friends with Joe Cox, the British Labour Member of Parliament, murdered in 2016 by a far-right extremist, just days before the Brexit referendum. Wales believes the rise of politically motivated violence is a natural result of this feeling of a complete breakdown of social norms and of the idea of trust, of being able to say, look, I disagree with you, but I trust that we can have a dialogue and we'll find a compromise and we can move forward. In this context, Wikipedia represents more than information resource. It's a proof of concept that people with different views can work together toward shared goals when structures and norms support productive collaboration. The site's talk pages, where editors debate contentious edits, are laboratories for constructive disagreement. They don't always work perfectly. Sometimes discussions devolve into anger, but they work often enough to produce an encyclopedia that millions of people across the political spectrum consider reliable. Part of Whale's pitch in his book is that most of us already practice trust in a very routine way. We get into ride shares with strangers. We share elevators with people we never met. We operate on background assumptions of social cooperation that, despite everything, still mostly hold. Wales points to organizations like Braver Angels, which host in-person conversations between people with opposing political views. Participants often emerge a little more understanding, a little more ready to think about compromises, he noted. The challenge is designing institutions and online spaces that tap into those better impulses rather than our worse ones. Wikipedia's collaborative culture at its best is a web version of this: slow, structured, and imperfect, but oriented toward shared understanding rather than tribal point scoring. It's not exciting, it's often tedious, but it works because it channels human effort towards something constructive. Wales' advice for navigating our fractured information landscape today is disarmingly simple. Direct your attention toward activities that build trust rather than destroy it. Audit your feeds. Take stock of how different platforms and sources make you feel and what behaviors they encourage. If you find yourself spending too much time using social media and being fed information that you don't trust, then stop doing that, Wales suggests. He offers one specific recommendation: delete X from your mobile phone. This isn't the advice of someone trying to protect his own platform from competition. It's the counsel of someone who has spent 2 decades thinking about how digital spaces shape human behavior and who has concluded that many of those spaces are toxic, not just for individuals, but for society. Amen to that. Wikipedia offers an alternative model. It shows that online spaces can bring out people's capacity for cooperation, patience, and commitment to accuracy rather than their worst instincts. It demonstrates that transparency and accountability, rather than algorithmic manipulation and engagement optimization, can sustain a thriving digital community. 24 years after its launch, Wikipedia stands as one of the internet's greatest success stories. But it's not perfect, but because it's honest about its imperfections and has built systems to continuously improve. It remains trustworthy not through authority or gatekeeping, but through radical transparency and collaborative refinement. Wales' sincerity about Wikipedia's value comes through not in defensiveness, but in openness. He doesn't claim the site is infallible. He acknowledges its failures and its ongoing challenges. He recognizes that maintaining neutrality requires constant vigilance, and that the collaborative editing process can be contentious and frustrating. But he also knows that Wikipedia represents something increasingly rare in our digital age, a space where truth matters more than tribalism, where evidence trumps assertion, where people with different perspectives can work together toward shared understanding. In an era when AI-generated content threatens to flood the internet with plausible-sounding nonsense, when social media platforms optimize for engagement over accuracy, when trust in institutions has cratered, Wikipedia's commitment to verifiable, transparent, collaboratively produced knowledge is more important than ever. The encyclopedia that seemed crazy in 2001, the one that trusted strangers on the internet to build something valuable together, has become one of the few things we can still trust today. That's not an accident. It's the result of careful design, dedicated volunteers, and an unwavering commitment to principles that prioritize accuracy and transparency over profit and engagement. Whale's optimism, it turns out, wasn't pathological. It was justified. Wikipedia works because it's built on a foundation of trust. Trust that is earned through transparency, maintained through accountability, and renewed through the daily efforts of thousands of people who care about getting things right. In a world awash in mistrust, that matters more than almost anything else. So what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? The story ultimately teaches us that transparency and good system design can bring out humanity's collaborative potential, even on the internet. Wikipedia proves that we don't need perfect people or infallible algorithms. We need structures that make honesty, accountability, and evidence-based discourse the path of least resistance. This matters especially now, as AI-generated content and social media algorithms threaten to make internet even less trustworthy. Wikipedia's success shows there's an alternative path forward. Well, there you go, my friends. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which can be found on Apple Podcasts, for show notes and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for the privilege of you listening and your interest. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you soon.